Big exciting news for an afternoon as new indications that there might only be one major deal item between Nancy Pelosi and Steve Mnuchin to get a deal, to get your second stimulus checks, to get FPUC, and to get other provisions. But will hazard pay be in there? How much grants? How much EIDL loans? How much EIDL grants? And how much PPP? How much money for state and local? How much money that will go into your hands as a solo, as an employee, as an SSDI viewer, or as a veteran? This is the debut of our new show on Afternoons LALATE, Purple. And thank you for joining me on Afternoons LALATE. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining me for the debut of our new show in this time slot, Purple, which is a combination of hazard pay and a combination of Check 2, continuation of the video before, and a combination of 28. Because there's so much going on in a daily news cycle, we figured we needed a more comprehensive coverage in this time slot. And I really appreciate you for joining. Go to the Funnest channel, subscribe, because we're approaching 300,000 subscribers, and we're almost there, about 1,000 away, with a great news across the board today, and also a like of this video. In this video, I'll be going over really what is holding up these final hours of negotiations and why there suddenly is no deadline for the end of today. But where is our focus, Purple Power? Where is our focus? Why should we be demanding numbers from these people when we're not being told much of anything? Additionally, what is now indicated in the new economics of the situation worldwide as new COVID-19 cases go out of control, according to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, and how quickly could we see this stimulus in our hands? These exciting, great news, and boy, let's get with it right now. Here's the breaking news. The breaking news this afternoon is that there is no more deadline. As if there was a deadline before. I can't. I just can't. We were told there was a deadline, have to reach an agreement to give stimulus by the end of 48 hours. And then when I asked about that a little bit closer today, Nancy Pelosi said, I didn't really mean that. Did you not hear me? Maybe you were just focusing on something else. I was trying to crush the virus, and you just were not listening. Nancy Pelosi now in a news statement today said that she no longer has a deadline of today. She just wanted a deadline to hear what everyone has to say about the situation. We've had a lot to say about the situation, Nance. We've been saying since July. So there's a deadline to just chat by today. Okay. And for that, they're working about an hour a day. I'm recording about 5 hours a day. You're tweeting about 6 hours or 8 hours or 12 hours a day, and they're working about 1 hour a day. And she says, we don't know what you're talking about. So today was a deadline to see what you're talking about. Okay, so a deadline not to give us checks again. So it's just, just do checks whenever you feel in the mood to do them. Americans are sort of a little tired of this silliness, and they're also tired of another factor, numbers. On Purple, we're focused on numbers, and we're focused on understanding what are you giving us, when are you giving it to us, and when we look at it, why is it so small? The package is like that. The point is, as we sit here today, you're owed multiple stimulus checks. MSC, hashtag MSC, has been the fighting cry of this channel since last Thursday when Purple Power unveiled, really the focus should be getting multiple stimulus checks, and that anything less would not be sufficient. And despite whatever happens today or tomorrow or whenever she wants to, do her deadline, the bottom line is you're owed multiple stimulus checks. Now, as you sit here today, we simply don't know what the deal offers are. If you watch the video right before this, I only know what Steve Mnuchin's last deal offer was 2.5 weeks ago. $1,200 for adults and $1,000 for child. And the other deal provisions I went through for the checks in that video before. I don't know what her offers are for stimulus checks. The two of them together Have they reached an agreement? By all accounts, it appears that they've reached an agreement for your stimulus checks. How much is it? They're not telling you. So, Purple Power, do your thing. Push, push, push. Say, you know what? Tell me how much you've agreed to for stimulus checks, and I want to know, because ultimately it's my check. Ultimately, you work for me. I don't work for you. You tell me how much you've offered and how much he's accepted and how much you've agreed to for a stimulus check or checks. Because Mark Meadows yesterday said it's going to be more money for stimulus checks, that the president has given is now at 1.9 for additional money for stimulus checks. So, tell me, Nancy Pelosi has accused the American public of not understanding the bill, even though it's a public document and we can read, thank you. We have literacy among this channel. So we demand to know what the deal offer is. Next, hazard pay. We demand to know what happened with hazard pay. What happened with hazard pay? Is it back in? Is it out? Is it gone in? Are you considering what happened to hazard pay? In the last 24 hours, Nancy Pelosi's news statements about the negotiations has talked about, well, one of the deal items that is holding this up, deal provisions that's holding this up, is liability insurance. The Republicans want a lot of liability insurance. We don't like that. Okay, Nance, well, guess what was supposed to have protection for the employees in it? The hazard pay bill. You got rid of it, so why don't you put it back in? Or is it back in? And if it's in, then tell us how much it is, and tell us whether it's mandatory. Tell us whether the employer is required to get the hazard pay for viewers. It's this type of not telling Americans anything that is getting a little screwy. Next, FPUC. In the latest statements from Nancy Pelosi, we don't know anything about FPUC. She, in fact, does not mention enhanced unemployment benefits as a deal item that is unresolved. She doesn't mention it. In fact, she hasn't mentioned it for upwards of about 5 days. So we are presumed to believe that FPUC has been agreed upon. So what is the amount? When is it retroactive? How does it work? Here's an example. If Mnuchin has really categorically gone to $600 a week for FPUC, which I really can't believe he would, but let's say he did, then I would presume the way he got to $600 a week was he did the less weeks of FPUC, and he's done less retroactive or no retroactive. I don't believe that he would have gone to $600 a week and done retroactive all the way back to July. But where are they? They're not telling us. It's that type of inability to really brief us about the situation that's very disconcerting. This channel came to fruition because of EIDL grants and EIDL loans where we were not told by congressional leaders what they're doing with them. Well, guess what? They're back again. EIDL grants and EIDL loans are back in the deal provisions from Nancy and Steve. But are you going to give us a $10,000 EIDL grant? Or are you just going to give me whatever Jovita Carranza wants to pay us a check for, which is what happened last time? Are you going to give us EIDL loans as big as we need them for? Or are you going to just do what Jovita did last time, which is, you know what, I'm going to put a cap, and I'll just figure out what the cap is today. It's that type of lack of clarity that is not sufficient. Multiple stimulus checks are owed to you. You are owed multiple stimulus checks because of the situation that we're in today. The president said it's not your fault that you didn't get, that you are in this pandemic. Well, guess whose fault it is we haven't gotten stimulus checks today? Congress and the president. The president should do executive orders tomorrow. What's important to understand as we sit here at the 8-minute mark, because I still have a lot of stuff coming up, so stay with me, is that the president will not, repeat, not have a law tomorrow on stimulus. There won't be a law. There may potentially be an agreement between Steve Mnuchin and Nancy by the end of today. I don't think so. My opinion, I don't think so. Maybe they'll be really super close, but there won't be a deal. But guess what, Mr. President? Do the multiple stimulus checks. In fact, you're only going to hear from me, and now at the 9-minute mark, you're only going to hear from me is that the president can do multiple stimulus checks, executive orders tomorrow, and also do the stimulus agreement with Nancy Pelosi. Why? Because that $800 billion that's sitting around has nothing to do with the $2 trillion deal item he's trying to formulate with Nancy. If you don't know what I'm talking about, let me slow it down. But the rest of you, I believe you've probably followed me already, which is that $800 billion that's sitting around is not part of his current offer to Nancy Pelosi. The president's at 1.9, heading to 2 trillion approximately. She's at 2.2. Neither of those people account that money as including the $800 billion that's sitting around unused from prior stimulus packages. And that money is CARES Act 1, CARES Act 3 money from rounds of PPP that was unused, that is sitting around in SBA's accounts that the president can repurpose and send out for stimulus checks. And he should, even if he reaches an agreement or is close to an agreement with Nancy Pelosi. You see how we think here? You see why I'm glad that you tuned in for the debut of the show, Purple, is because it makes so much sense. You have money sitting around, and you have PPP being put in the new program with Steve and Nancy, so you don't need to use that money that's still sitting around, the $800 billion for PPP. You have another round of PPP coming. The new plan between Steve and Nancy has about $350 billion of PPP allocated for in the new bill. So you don't need to use the $800 billion for PPP. You use it for multiple stimulus checks. And also for FPUC. The president tomorrow, on the 24 hours before going into the final debate with Joe Biden, who is under fire for his questions about how much taxes is he going to raise, the number two video, the number 2 article on CNBC for the last 3 days is Joe Biden and tax rate. It's a big issue. It's not a small issue. The president needs to deal with that issue by addressing his economic concerns of stimulus and sending out an executive order for stimulus checks. 2 rounds, $2,000 each, every American, and another round of FPUC, $200 billion of FPUC. It wouldn't cover you to February of next year, but it'd cover you for a couple of weeks. FPUC expired. I have friends that have lost their FPUC, their LWA. It's now expired. They're not getting anything. Mr. President, now is the time to help those people who don't have LWA anymore, don't have FPUC. They're living on whatever, $167 a week from the state of California. That's not going to cut it. Nor is waiting for Steve and Nancy's thing to formulate, go to the accounts of the agency that it is, have states apply. There's an urgent time now. Do the stimulus checks right now. 2 rounds. Do the FPUC right now. And we will also have Nancy and Steve's deal formulated. Purple Power, I think of all the things that we can talk about in a 24-hour day and push. This one makes the most sense. Continue to negotiate with Nancy and Steve. Continue the negotiations. You're doing good. Keep it going. But in the meantime, get an agreement to do that $800 billion as executive orders for FPUC and 2 rounds of stimulus checks. Because why would you not want to agree to it? Why would someone not want to agree to that? It's an issue of timing and an issue of urgency. Angel Garcia, Secretary General of the OEOC, Organization of Economic Cooperation Development, said today in a panel that the changes in economics are going to be long in place because of this virus. She says that from production to trade to inequality, the way in which we are living may be totally different going forward. We don't want to go back to the status quo before because it was status quo that got us here. That made us unprepared. That did not invest in vaccines. That did not invest in health. We're not out of the woods yet, but we're starting to walk out of the woods. But a new report today also says that members of a World Health Organization are worried that 10 countries are now at their highest daily COVID-19 number of cases per day. That the numbers are increasing incredibly high. What are the countries? Argentina, Canada, France, Germany, Iran, Italy, Russia, Spain, Ukraine, and England, the United Kingdom, are all onto record high daily numbers. In the United States, the cases are accelerating. New daily U.S. cases are at 7-day average, totaling about 58,000 on Monday, about 18%, 1/8, higher than last week. And cases are growing by about 5% in 35 states, with 16 states reporting higher daily averages. The U.S. still has the worst outbreak in the world with 8.2 million cases, but in some situations, the number of daily cases in some states are at the highest levels since the month of July. Let me answer some incredible questions from yesterday. Kimberly, they're driving the American people on the ground. I can't believe this is happening. They all need to be voted out. Sherry, Mark Meadows said it. The increased offer to 1.9. They increased the offer to 1.9, and Trump said a larger stimulus package for America. This was a public announcement. Yes, and the president, you know, he really should stop saying this comparative adjectives. I'm going to go higher than Nancy Pelosi. Well, you're not higher. Nancy Pelosi is at 2.2. You're not at 2.4, Mr. President. You're at 1.9. So it doesn't help the negotiations or the reporting of the situation when you say you want to go higher than Nancy and you're not higher. Charlene, the negotiations are a waste of time. She's never going to do anything. Izella, how about Nancy? She's not going to agree to anything because it's such a hateful old lady. Carla Sermons, they're definitely dramatic. They're more dramatic than teenagers learning how to drive. Federico Francisco, I like your comments. Timing is everything, but big strategy for the president. Well, thank you, Federico. Thank you for tuning in. Julie DiOrio, Pelosi, go check yourself into a nursing home. Debbie Nesbitt, we'll never get anything more from Nancy and Pelosi and Mitch McConnell's just dragging this out until after the election. Martha, I'm sorry, I'm trying to wait to the election. Diana, tomorrow is just like Joe's Crab Shack free tomorrow. Tomorrow never comes. Connie, Purple Power, seats for stimulus. John Kyle, tomorrow. Bernadette, anyone close to me, I'll be glad to make you dinner or let you stay. Pennsylvania, I don't want to see people starving and nowhere to stay. That's very nice. Bernadette Thompson, 19 hours ago, says anyone that's in Pennsylvania she does not want to see go hungry. She's in the comments. So thank you, Bernadette, for this beautiful message. Lena Wheeler, good afternoon, Purple Power and LA. Well, good afternoon. Crypto Angel, if they cared about the American people, we have already had multiple stimulus checks. Trump, get rid of them all. Michelle, update, there is and there will be no stimulus. No, that's not true. It's just what day will be the stimulus. There will not be stimulus in your hand today. Tona, good evening, LA in the Purple Panel. Hey, good evening, Tona. TMG. Of course she's calling it off. She never intended to go through it. Wow, a lot of great questions, a lot of great comments. Coming up next is McConnell versus Trump. Is McConnell trying to take your money? Is McConnell trying to take your EO executive order money? And then Pelosi versus Mnuchin. Big developments, big twists, and big turns. Go to Fun's channel, subscribe. We're almost at 300,000 subscribers. Let's get there. And it's an incredible community in which we're really focused. But thank you exceptionally for tuning into the debut today of Purple. Also, like this video. Coming up is McConnell versus Trump, and then Pelosi versus Mnuchin, 2 bombshell reports. Don't miss them. As always, stay informed, stay smiling, and stay alive for more.